These days, it's natural to feel a bit lost. Everyone seems to be looking for a sense for where they stand in the world, a reference point on which to ground ourselves, a mental map. When we think of our mental maps of the actual world, however, that is, our intuitive sense for the shape and relative position of places on the planet, it may surprise you to learn that they're a bit off. Many people's mental maps of Earth, in fact, share the same fairly significant errors. Relative positions, sizes, and even the existence of minor locations may be totally off base. The good news is, it's not your fault. One reason for a skewed mental picture of the world is our brains taking shortcuts. Our minds try to simplify the layout of highly detailed things, such as the locations of cities and countries around the world, but these shortcuts may not always be accurate. Take, for example, South America. Many may think it's located more or less directly south of North America, with Chile corresponding roughly to California. If you flew straight south from Los Angeles, however, you wouldn't hit land again until Antarctica. In reality, all of continental South America is located east of Florida. In this way, North and South America could also accurately be named West and East America, respectively. These mental misconceptions aren't limited to the Americas. Do you think of Africa as being largely in the southern hemisphere? Perhaps at similar latitudes as South America. In fact, the vast majority of Africa is north of the equator. I bet you never realized that Disney World in Orlando, Florida, is closer to the equator than the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Europe is also much further north than many people realize. A line drawn west out of London, England, would never touch the 48 contiguous states. Paris is actually further north than Montreal. Barcelona is around the same latitude as Chicago. Our mental image of Europe being further south than it actually is may have to do with its weather. Europe has what's called a Mediterranean climate, the result of warm air crossing the Atlantic via the Gulf Stream. This means that many European cities have climates that those of us in the Americas associate with lower latitudes. When we think about the weather in, say, Venice, we don't expect it to be located further north than Toronto. But it is. A skewed sense of the world isn't just our brain's fault for taking shortcuts. Every map you've ever seen has been, in some way, distorted from reality. For instance, many of us grew up with maps in school that show Greenland to be about the same size as South America. In reality, however, South America is more than 8 times larger than Greenland. Similarly, most maps make it impossible to see that Brazil is larger than the contiguous United States and only slightly smaller than Canada, or that Alaska is actually smaller than Libya. Now, how is it possible that maps can be so misleading? The answer lies in the impossibility of representing a 3-dimensional object, the Earth, in only 2 dimensions, a map. While a globe can accurately represent relative positions, sizes, and distances on the Earth's surface without issue, compromises must be made when trying to flatten an orb into a map. Cartographers, people who make maps, have developed various methods of depicting the round Earth on a flat surface, called projections. Each of these projections represents the Earth accurately in some way while distorting the planet in others. For instance, one of the most common projections is the Mercator projection, introduced in 1569 by Gerardus Mercator. Mercator maps are found in classrooms around the world, and it's even the projection used by Google Maps. Mercator's goal in developing his projection was to aid navigation. Any angle on the globe is the same angle on a Mercator map, which assured navigators that they were heading towards their intended destination in the days before GPS. As a result, however, the relative sizes and shapes of continents on Mercator maps are distorted, especially for land nearer to the poles. As you move further away from the equator, the Mercator projection shows land taking up more area than it actually does on Earth. This is why Antarctica looks so large, while in reality being the 3rd smallest continent. As a result, Mercator projections tend to portray northern countries, such as those in Europe, as being larger than they actually are. Remember how far North London actually is? Some scholars maintain that these countries' magnification has contributed to an imperialist mindset, essentially allowing small European countries to inflate their position on the world. While the Mercator is one of the most commonly found around and of the world, it is far from the only projection available. Each, like the Mercator, has its own benefits and drawbacks. None is considered more correct than any other. They're all trying to solve the same impossible problem, converting something from 3 dimensions to 2. The only representation of Earth that doesn't make any compromises? A globe. Apart from mental shortcuts and distorted projections, there's another reason why your mental map may be false. You've been intentionally lied to. Before satellites were taking high-resolution photos of all the Earth's surfaces 24 hours a day, making a map was a painstaking job. If you spent a ton of time and resources making a map, you needed ways to ensure people wouldn't copy your work and sell it themselves as their own map. One way to do this was by putting intentional errors in maps called trap streets. For instance, if you were mapping your hometown and included a made-up street, nothing serious, maybe just a fictional cul-de-sac in the corner of town, and that same fake cul-de-sac appeared in a competitor's map, you could be confident they had stolen your map. According to the grandson of the former president and CEO, Thomas Brothers Maps would put fake streets of people's kids' names, pets' names, in little cul-de-sacs, and that was one way we would be able to keep the copyright. One of the most common descriptions of map making is that it is both an art and a science. Historians hypothesize that human consciousness has always had an impulse to try to cognitively map and relate to our physical surroundings. And while human brains may instinctively have an impulse to map, the practice is by no means an innate skill, leading to many distortions in how we mentally believe the world is laid out. It's important to keep in mind how, just like the projections of globes onto maps, the way we view our surroundings is only one of many valid interpretations. Sometimes, when you feel lost in the world, changing perspectives may be just what you need to find your way.